He's here very on brand this morning. Got the shirt, got the hat. We're just Lucent in the house.
Yeah.
So it's a pleasure and a privilege for us to be able to speak to people that are in big names in our industry, and you've traveled a long way to be here. And I've been hearing about Pandol Brothers for many, many years. So
since the symposium or the Grape Congress last year, I've followed you online, and so
we were at the Global Grape Summit in Bakersfield last year.
Okay, you were in Bakersfield.
Yes.
So that really kind of opened our eyes to many things, and particularly the Californian table grape industry.
Yes.
We thought cookie was something else.
I remember when Jim told me that Cookie agreed to talk, and I started, he dates back to the labor clashes of the 1960s, and all of these different things, and I goes, you realize he's the biggest organic grower? And he goes, Cookie? Shit.
Just like that.
There was a lot of things. That could have gone a long way. I'm glad that was done.
He
incredible.
He called a spade, and he said it like it is, clearly. And we thought that was quite something. We've now started talking, but you maybe just want to do a bit of an intro.
Yeah, the recording has been going, so it's
good.
Yeah. So, John, thank you so much for coming to have a chat to us. I think for the few people that don't know who you are, please introduce yourself. Just who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Well, John Pandol. I'm out of Delano, California, in California Central Valley. Our family started farming in the 1940s. We started exporting to Asia in the 1960s. We started importing Chilean and Mexican grapes in the 1970s, and we just have never looked back.
Wow.
So we've been in the same location now for about 80 years.
Fantastic.
And my specific role, I do business development, and one of the big changes over, say, my career, business development, when I started, was probably 85% convincing growers how to do things and tell them how to do things and teach them how to do things to access export markets. Well, we're all mature now. Today, it's 85% trying to get access to the buy side. So I spend most of my time in supermarkets, at distribution centers, all along the supply chain. I like to kid that I am the digital and physical presence of Pandol Brothers.
Yes.
We heard you say that yesterday.
Physically in South Africa and digitally coming to here on Lucentlands.
Yes, fantastic. So what was interesting to us when we were in California last year, and it was my first international trip. For myself, Louise has been to the States once or twice before, is that as a grower sells directly to the supermarkets, or do you have conglomerates that will buy fruit from different growers and then sell that under their brand to a supermarket?
It is interesting as both the buy side and sell side have become more consolidated. In our case, we have our own sales company, and so yes, we directly sell. Most growers do not. It's simply a question of scale to have enough to justify, to have the professional staff to keep up with everything with supermarkets. One of the advantages of us being year round is we talk to them all the time, and we think of the old days. They talked about the 30-day fields that a farmer would have a crop, be it a vegetable crop or a orchard crop, and his season was, they talked about 30 days, which was typically in veg. He'd hire a salesman who knew lots of small chains and lots of wholesalers, and he'd have access, and he knew the guys at the railroad and or the shipping line or whatever, and got it in. I think today, no, you have ourselves, even as a fairly big grower, you need to amortize marketing expertise and link up with other expertise in other places.
What's interesting when you did your introduction about who Pandol Brothers is and how you've developed to have become an importer of Mexican grapes when you did, and you said it's quite a long time ago in the 70s. that was very forward thinking. So instead of seeing them as competition, you made that part of your business. Did I understand that correctly?
We looked at, we looked at the sales operation. You had, okay, I have all of these people year round. They're busy half the year. It was a question of really amortizing cost.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yes.
To keep your people employed for longer per annum. And you export as well. Where do you export to?
Over the years, it's probably been 45. Today in the U.S., like I said, our biggest export market, of course, is Canada, followed by Mexico, logically.
Okay.
And then, of course,
So there are no ships involved.
Some East Asian countries.
Oh, okay. So
Australia, New Zealand, and certainly Central American, Caribbean.
Okay.
So,
but it's fortuitous for you that you have Canada and Mexico right on your borders, so that you can go through by truck or by rail.
85 to 90% of our business is home market or adjacent markets. Okay. Say 5 years ago, it was still probably over 20%. Call it ocean markets.
Okay.
And how many boxes of table grapes do you move generally through a year?
Through the course of the year, it's about 8 million. In our season, about 4.
Okay.
It's about half of that.
From your own vineyards?
It's largely from our own vineyards. Yeah. We do have about 20% outside third-party growers.
Okay. Wow.
I've got a job in town, as they say.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that your focus over the years has moved to, you are on the buy side. You are on the side going to speak to people about buying and getting the marketing organized. And it seems that seems to be a very big challenge. It's obvious. We had that discussion yesterday. Who's stealing your lunch? So it's very, very important for somebody who knows the market to go and continuously work at that. It must be a challenge, but can you expand on that?
Well, one of the things that is absolutely a challenge is you get someone who is responsible for procurement. He's not necessarily the decision maker in what to buy. Mm-hmm. In some case, you have the merchandiser, which is in the sell side, who decides, for example, I'm going to have the question of varieties.
Yes.
Okay, should I have one white, one red, one black, or should I have the top 5 varieties that are out there, irregardless of color? I could potentially have 5 reds one week and other colors. Okay, that would be a merchandiser who would make that, and he would simply say, buyer, find this for me. In some cases, the buyers actually make the merchandising decision. When we have the development of varieties, for example, all of these specialties. Okay, how do I get that in? And on the other one, you look on a 52-week basis, a buyer in Bentonville, Arkansas, or London or somewhere, how is he up on all these different places, all these different parts of the world? Okay. A lot of the buy function has been outsourced. There's no question. There is a whole bunch of intermediaries who put together parts of programs.
So I would imagine, I'm kind of trying to boil down what you need to do the most. It's educating them about varieties.
That is exactly what I want.
Educating them about the difference between varieties and what this is, what that is, what that is.
One of the, as we've gone, say, especially in the last 10 years, from a group that had largely the same varieties, mm-hmm. to all people who have different varieties, who may have access to different varieties. Okay. They may, we now have to, that is a big differentiator. One of the problems, when initially the newer varieties, this new wave came out probably 10 to 15 years ago, who had them first? Typically they were the best and the brightest.
Yes.
And so, the new varieties are better. Well, in reality, when we had the old varieties, some growers were better than others, and now with the new varieties, some growers are better than others. It's one of the problems that's starting to flesh out, that actually it's kind of a lazy buyer who says, if there's 6 reds, I want that one, and that's if I have that one, I will have the best in market. And that's not true. And now there's almost kind of coming a backlash where we see, not a backlash, but those who are realizing that, you know what, there's all these, say, mid-tier red varieties. If I get them on a good day, and they're not the popular ones, they are kind of like that hidden wine that
Yes.
nobody
Yes.
knows about that's really good, but it's not expensive yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, we now actually see I should say it's variety neutral, and certainly the sales at supermarkets has always been variety neutral.
Yes.
We sell a variety and they sell a commodity, and
That
it's
is so well put. You sell a variety and they sell a commodity.
Right.
That is. You should trademark that one.
Well, no, that we will file that under a podcast called "The Firm Command of the Obvious."
But what we've also picked up is that this year the buyer for grapes will not be there next year. Next year they are buying toys, and
I think that's the case in some organizations. In Europe, I think that's more of the case. In the U.S., that's probably less of the case. But certainly there are, organizations that move a procurement function around so they don't get too comfortable.
Yes.
The downside is they're never quite knowledgeable enough.
That is exactly it. So that's where I was going with. You probably need to do you need to be patient, and you need to do a lot of education.
I mean, I know
as you move on,
I know
where you
one
go to places.
very senior buyer, probably 25 years, has probably been, and this buyer also did citrus, has probably been on every grape and citrus throughout the Americas, South Africa, and a few other places that I probably didn't know she's been.
Okay.
And
They know their
you
stuff.
can put her on a panel. She knows everyone. Now we had also a buyer yesterday. He's been a little over 10 years, and he was on the sell side before that. He was in the vegetable side, but he knows. He's been out and about. He's good. He's knowledgeable.
Good to know that there are those people that are around for a long time and that do know. I recall when we were growing and exporting table grapes, exactly what Dewald was saying. Sometimes you get to places, particularly Europe, and particularly in the 1990s, the British supermarkets. They appoint someone who's in their late 20s, who has never seen a grape growing,
Right.
and then they need to deal with they are the buyers, and they are there, young and not very knowledgeable, but very powerful. And they are there, and you have to dance to their tunes. And in 2 years' time, they've moved on, and there's another one.
Yes. No, and
It is what it is.
they're out. I mean, one of the I would say, when we started coming out with the varieties and say, oh, we need to market varieties, and we need to market varieties at a retail level. That's the answer to all of our problems. I go, okay, well, we want to be the Apple ones. And you brought in an earlier commentary, the pink crisps, or the pink ladies.
Pink ladies.
Not the, right. When we look at the Apple category, I go, well, okay, I walk into a store, there's 8 varieties. I talk to orchardists, there's 50 varieties.
Yes.
What happened to the other 42?
Yes.
We have geneticists here that we have 42 varieties year round somewhere in the world. I go, okay, show me a store, and what does that look like at a retail shelf? In other words, what is he going to do?
It looks like a generic apple, just an apple. You don't know.
And why don't we have a slot for that generic apple? You know what? I'll have we all talk about food waste and whatnot. Okay, you know what? We've got the treasure hunt. Actually, we have a retail sector in the United States that they call dollar stores generally. They're not now, but there is they're looking for things that look, okay, you can't sell them. We're somewhere between the normal trade and a food bank. And you know what? Okay, if you've got something that you've packed out and you have nothing to do with, look, we're cheap, but you got a home for it.
Yes, and you're going to get something for it.
Exactly. And the customer there, he goes, you know what? I don't know which apple I'll get or which grape, but there'll probably be one. And it'll be okay.
That's very realistic.
And you know what? If you're in a household where really stretching it, we talk about, every consumer says they want price, and then we see a lot of I heard it called split brain decision the other day. It's like, I can't afford grapes at what was it, at whatever, and but I can go buy 2 fancy coffees with all the attributes
And
attached to them.
I said to Louise, I said, you should grow more coffee then.
I want, and then you look at coffee. I go, well, that's a commodity. I go,
Yes.
But then you also look at, say, businesses like wine, like commodity, or like coffee, and you say, okay, yeah, there's this little niche of specialty. We talked about riches and niches yesterday, and then you have this wide, broad, just commodity. The not hand picked but machine picked in a few countries, and wine industries like that.
The world, people talk about being spoiled for choice, but too much choice actually it spoils the situation. If you had to choose between 3 or 4 things, that's fine. But if you walk in and there are 50 things to choose from, it's going to take you a while, and you might get bewildered and not know what, just grab the first thing.
And you pick the one that's got low sugar, high acidity, and then grapes are shit. I'm never going to eat a grape again.
You've identified something we call analysis paralysis.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's it. And we see, a lot of folks say in the apple business, it's like, what? We have so many varieties, we don't know what to choose. At a buyer level, I go, I have all these varieties, they're all good.
And that's not even stone fruit.
Stone fruit in the United States.
There's thousands of varieties.
Actually, that business collapsed. I mean, they went from a 3-month season to a 6-month season to full red varieties, peaches and nectarines, 6 months. 2 or 3 white flesh varieties to a full slate of white fleshed peaches, white fleshed nectarines.
And now you've got to grow all of those.
And pluots and donuts and everything else.
Yes.
And they have the same thing. The variety, the professional buyer who's not so professional says, second week of July, I use this. Well, next year, no, it's not second week of July,
No,
it's first week of July,
exactly.
or fourth week of July. And it's like, well, he's made his calendar, and so he either forces something into the store because someone's going to go after the order, and he has less than optimum fruit, and it kills the category.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Because that's the thing in South Africa is we grow fantastic stone fruit. But if you go into any normal household in South Africa, you will hardly ever find a peach or a plum in any house, because South Africans do not know what a good plum, nectarine, or peach tastes like, because we have to pick them so early that by the time they get to the market, they're ripe and ready to eat. So the stuff you buy in the shop are generally very acidic.
Stone hard.
You can bounce it off the floor. So nobody eats it because you buy it and you want to go eat it immediately.
Not worth eating.
But you buy it and you want to go eat it immediately. Now you've got to let it sit on your table for 3 weeks for it to ripen naturally. Then nobody buys it.
We shouldn't mock the Brits too much, but I grew up with English language humor and Monty Python and the two Ronnie, and I'm thinking one of the standard jokes of British comedy is British food is bad. The teeth and the and it's like, okay, so exactly why am I? And I remember in the 90s that the consolidation and the British multiples were just going to take over supermarkets.
They were very powerful.
And in China and really, how many countries did they fail in?
Indeed.
I mean, we had Fresh and Easy in the United States, and they were going to tell the Americans what to do, and
it's a funny old world.
4 years, and how many billion quid later they were.
Yeah.
Well, the English tried to colonize the whole world and did a good job to one point, but then
they tried to colonize supermarkets.
That too. So it's wonderful to have someone here from California. What is when you look at the South African table grape industry, and I'm sure it's not your first visit.
No, it is my first visit.
Oh, really?
As an organization, no.
Okay.
But we actually, when I was in university, my cousin Jack, in the 70s, started coming down here, say as a 20-something, and struck up friends. We had a young guy from North Parle, and he came up and worked a season with us in early 80s.
Okay.
So I've always had kind of this flow. I haven't been here, but you've been there.
Okay.
So I grew up with a flow of international visitors, both from the producer sides and the buy side, Asian importers or European buy. I mean, my whole life it was kind of like the UN lobby of the grape business.
That's fantastic.
Much like the
it.
Bakersfield show that you saw
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year.
Love it. Well,
to-
I can imagine that because it's an international sector. It's international, and when people start speaking grapes, and they say, well, how do you do it in your part of the world? But we do it like this. So there's a lot of technical interchange. And as you say, on the buyer side, they've got to come, they've got to look, and it's interesting. So we were in California last year. It was a huge privilege for us, and it was interesting for us to see how you actually package in the vineyard.
Yes.
That is here.
Are you going to be visiting
happen.
some farms while you're still here?
Yes, we have actually tomorrow. We have
field
get bright and early, get on the bus and out to Pearl.
Are you going to the Pearl one?
I'm going to the Pearl one.
Enjoy it. We are going to be covering the one in the Hex.
Okay.
Because we actually live quite close. I live in the Hex River Valley. Well, as I said, I used to farm with table grapes.
So you're going back to the old neighborhood.
Yes, indeed. But so it was interesting for us to see vineyard packing. That does not happen here.
And fields with no fences.
My goodness, that was like the biggest shock.
That's one of the. We talk about when we compare costs.
Yeah.
Cost of security in different countries and
Yes.
and quality controlled.
Yeah.
One
of the biggest things for me, the first day we were driving to the farm, and there was a whole lot of trucks standing in the field. And I said, "Oh, look, there must be a lot of farmers here. I think we're going to be here." Meanwhile, it was the packers.
It was the crews.
The crew.
Yes. Well, in South Africa, you don't see that.
No.
It's the farm workers living on the farm, and they've got some contractors coming in for the season.
Right,
but
they don't have their own vehicles. They don't arrive in their own vehicles.
Certainly not. Not even bicycles.
They get taken to the field with a truck.
With a truck.
They drive their own cars, and it's well, how do you organize them? Well, you call the foreman, and the foreman all calls. Before cells, they even had phones at their home. They were,
Yes.
they were locatable. That the standard of living of the average farm worker versus most of the world was very different.
Yes.
I've got a question. In terms of people coming in from other countries to come and work in California, that is quite big, but it's predominantly Mexican people coming coming for labor in the vineyards and the pack houses. Do you see? There's no other countries really coming to do that. Why I'm asking is a lot of South Africans are going on H2A visas to the wheat fields and the rice fields, and they go and drive tractors and harvesters and trucks for months on end. But yet nobody's looking at the fruit industry really in California.
Really our labor is mostly stable, and as they're stable, we still have the remnants of most who are first are immigrant, and some who are born U.S. Who have stayed in it. There's certainly a big part in specialty ag where it's seasonal.
Yes.
I mean, what we've lost is you used to have. I mean, go back to the 1930s and watch the Grapes of Wrath, and you see the kind of the migrant Okies working, and we pick peaches here for 3 weeks, and we moved on to the next area, and that has gone away. The folks, the folks who depend on large peak labor the program is called the H2A program, where you get from some part of the world now. In our area, it's Mexico. Mexico is close. You get in the eastern United States, you get the Caribbeans. Okay. You go to upstate New York and Apples, and it's Dominicans.
Okay.
It's funny. It was about 4 or 5 years ago. A potato guy in Colorado had his crews from Ukraine.
Really?
Okay.
Yes. I mean, so it's you're right. It's largely Mexicans and Central Americans.
Okay.
And really, what you thought it may have been universally Mexican might have been 90% Mexican and 10% Central American.
Okay. Very interesting.
But yeah, the program does exist, and we are blessed having a stable because we pick grapes for 5 months.
Yes.
And that's another thing. You design your operation
for 5 months.
Do I have an even flow of work?
Yes.
It's been one of the challenges of new variety. One of them required a fairly large amount of one variety. well, okay, I need a workforce that comes in and I need to pick like gangbusters for this and then I got less. That's harder to pull off operationally.
Yes.
And we do see, we're at the end of the season. We have one neighbor who he has a lot of grapes in the field. We've had our first freeze, and it's like, well, why did he miss in a year like this? I mean, that's
Yes, obviously.
That's an operate.
Yes.
To plan your operation
Yes.
to stabilize labor, both for harvest and non-harvest, because farmers, we work other parts of the year when we're not
Yes.
harvesting
Yes,
too.
indeed, indeed.
And that gets shortchanged
Indeed.
from time to time.
So you said you harvest for 5 months of the year.
Correct.
Table grapes.
July through November. We finished 10 days ago
Wow. In California.
in California.
Wow.
We had our first freeze 3 days ago, -2, so we're done.
Yes, you certainly are. I mean, after a freeze, you're done.
Goodness me.
And so, looking into the future, Pandol Brothers has been around for 80 years. Is the next generation involved on the farms?
There are some. I
Okay.
mean, it's always we look back on the farm and it's funny when you had 13 kids. Okay, one or two can stay and the rest had to go
Yes.
out and find their way. Well, now you know what, we got tops too, and a lot of them. It is an issue. How do you attract people to rural America, to rural,
Yes.
anywhere? Name the country.
Yes.
You see, actually, it's funny. You see some, here in the Western Cape, you can live, but you can be very close to a major city.
Yes.
Yes.
And as we say, different than perhaps in the north of the country where you're a long way from anywhere.
Yes.
I mean, if you need a doctor, you have to send your kids away to school or home. I mean, it's
Yes. You're right.
try to get a good plumber or a good electrician or
You do everything yourself.
you either
have
do it
to.
yourself. Yeah.
You're a jack of all trades. You
Yeah.
fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
Push fixes.
So it's a very different lifestyle. It's not appealing to everyone. So
No, but so you say there are some of the younger
there's
generation.
some of the next generation.
Oh, that's
I just
fantastic.
had actually too one. But they come in now with my father's generation went to high school. I went to university, and
Yeah.
they had come in with master's degrees.
Yes.
So I have one in soil science from Purdue, and another one with undergraduate in sustainability and a master's in ag business.
Wonderful.
But
20 somethings.
Yeah.
youngsters like that coming into the business with those things is hugely advantageous to the company, because they come with new ideas, they come with new things that could take the company just to the next step.
I think the most successful farmers have always had new ideas. I mean, let's
Yes.
understand that the plants and animals do not spontaneously jump on our plates and become food. There's. I mean, we started for let's talk about tillage animals. We started crossbreeding horses and donkeys to make mule. How many millennia ago?
Many.
I mean, we've always been improving the technology.
Yes.
We think of say a technology for preserving food like a tinning or canning.
Yes.
That came out of the Napoleonic Wars, and in the our sponsor yesterday was Dole. Well, Dole started in the Kingdom of Hawaii
Yes.
canning pineapple,
Yes.
which is something you would never, no one would ever get.
And now that's what we know.
Or
Canned
the
pineapples.
manufacture of ice. Before you had harvesting of ice, which is a very interesting case study. But
That is an interesting story.
that they harvested ice in Boston area, shipped it as far as India.
I know.
And of course, we know the Caesars of ancient Rome also kept ice in their coolers.
It's
for the summer.
phenomenal.
And people say, well, what? And and they farmed oysters too,
Yes.
2,000 years ago.
Yes. And I mean, as recently as the late 20th century, all grapes are now seedless. If you go back to the 1950s and 60s, seedless grapes would have been, what? You're talking about what?
Okay, I started in '83, and we had, I think it was 3 seedless varieties at that time, and the rest were seeded. I mean, it's not
that long ago.
within human memories, perhaps a gray hair, but there we go.
And now it is an assumption. You just don't have seeded grapes anymore.
I think there's almost, one of the things is that there's almost an anti-intellectual bias in farming. There was always that, we know better. Well, but actually our methodology, and I think it's unfortunate that we are now so removed from farming As I said in one election, I don't know anyone who farms. I don't know anyone who farms. And so
Yet we eat.
deal with, and we deal with a public in the public square who has no idea. Perhaps they know where their coffee came from, but they don't know how it got there or how it was made. And, they wish to look at attributes and I should never till my land, and till free is a thing. Oh, really? For all soils, all crops, at all times, and all places? That's crazy. Yet we often are in a political sense are subject to the tyranny of the clueless.
Yeah.
I love it. The tyranny of the clueless. I'm going to keep that one. I love it.
I mean, what did they learn? Their only agriculture is in a little paper cup. They grew a plant in second grade in the classroom in the windowsill, and that's all they know about agriculture.
I love it.
Actually,
I've got a question. If you have to stop farming table grapes today, if somebody says to you, John, you're not allowed to farm a single grape, what would you grow, or what would you farm with then?
Well, let's say if we look at let's go this way. We look at where's the money? What are they subsidizing these? Because if you subsidize something, and really what is the biggest land use in our area is solar panels.
Okay.
Because think about it, we were fairly close to Los Angeles. They've all gone out. Yeah, they've all gone out, and they make their sign that I have to have renewable energy. Oh, let's go up to the next county and buy land and cover it. Our governor has been nice enough that anything in renewable energy does not pay property tax.
Oh.
So what's the county for my schools and all my public services and that money, that place that used to pay property tax that no longer does? Because that property tax now subsidizes the rate of return of some
electricity,
some investor who finances green projects.
So you would go and farm with solar panels?
Yeah, I'd put in the solar panel. I'd collect my check. Right? I mean, you want to talk about an easy.
Cannot fault it.
That's as a landholder. Now, let's say I was not the landholder, I'm not farming because I lost my lease. Everything must go.
Yeah.
God, what would I do? What would I grow? I think I would go for the niches and riches. I think I would go for one of these small boutique a few crops that are always coming off, and I would be the antithesis. In the fast food trade, they have the LTO, the limited time offer. We get the right now it's the peppermint coffee for Christmas.
Get it today because tomorrow it's gone.
Right, it's funny. Actually, one of my nieces who works in kind of that type of a supermarket, someone asked for an item. Well, that's a seasonal item. Well, they love it because it's seasonal, and then are angry it's not seasonal.
Yeah.
Our tyranny of the clueless customer.
I love it.
Wow. Very interesting.
Anyway, I would get a multiple, just something that's century, something that we talked about the peaches.
Yeah.
You know what? When they're just right versus that optimal versus edible is a big gap.
Yes.
And those are the types of things I would go for.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Right, I think we're coming to the end of it. I think we could have talked for a lot longer, but we've got other things to do also.
And so have you, I'm sure.
We've got a closing tradition. So the previous person we interviews asked the question for the next guy.
Completely random question.
You don't know who it was.
So it's a bit of fun.
I never will.
and they don't know who the question went to because and it doesn't go out in chronological order, so it could have been anyone.
Wow.
What do you do to help women shine?
One, we don't use the prejudice of low expectation. We do what we do with anyone else. We put them in positions where they're going to succeed, not overload them and not undermotivate them. So just find where they need to be and put them there and let them go, and then their confidence will create the inertia of their profession.
Very nice answer, because that is true.
Yeah.
That is exactly. So often people have low expectations of women and put them in a position and don't allow them to shine. So, exactly what you're saying. Put them there like everyone else and give them the opportunity.
Our last acceptable prejudice in the United States in employment is credentialism.
Oh.
Must have a university degree. Must have a postgraduate degree. And if I don't, maybe there's a big part of that 70% of the population that is
can do
really good.
Yes.
So
I completely
that's
agree with
we'll
you.
see that. So why does he have to have a degree? Why does he have to have a university?
Somebody once explained to me that a university degree, all it does is show somebody that you had the diligence
discipline.
and the discipline to show up. It
To a
doesn't
place
mean
for
that
4
you
years and not screw up.
It doesn't mean that you're necessarily highly educated. Because I've met some people with degrees that, yes, they obviously went through it, but so it's one of those. And sometimes you find someone without a degree couldn't afford it, but are hungry and very capable. So, yeah.
And for whatever circumstances did not. And they're...
Yes.
I was actually, you follow my LinkedIn game, and there was one I criticized yesterday, and it was, these are the universities that have the highest amount of CEOs. And, I had the Harvards, and I looked at that study, it goes, well, 60% of them had none. So the correct answer was none of them did not have an MBA.
Yeah.
So so Harvard was second place, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I just wanted to say thank you very, very much for joining us.
It's been a privilege for
us. And it's been a privilege. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your stay in South Africa, and the very best of luck for Pandol Brothers going into the future.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And for the upcoming season and all the challenges, we know South Africa's got challenges, but there's also a lot of challenges for you guys on that side. So best of luck with all of that.
Oh, yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our last comment, of course, is the prediction of, we're going to go to just a virtual world and never, all these conferences are going to go away. I go, yeah. It was a pleasure to do this in person and not virtually.
Yes.
And for those of you joining us virtually, good seeing you.
Thank you so much.